What is the government doing to protect us, citizens?
Aadhaar enables everyone to be able to register.
We have made air gap with our critical sensitive data.
My question is, what are the current challenges? If you're going at such a rapid pace with respect to digitalization and DPIs, what are the current challenges that you foresee, and what is the government doing to protect us, citizens?
Thank you so much. It's a very, wide-ranging question. I mean, in short span of time, it's very difficult to answer this question. But I think I'll try to answer this in the framework of DPI, because that's the theme of today's session. Let me start with telling you about the kind of DPI which Delhi Police has, because that's my starting point. The common connotation of DPI that it should be, olden days we used to talk about IT infrastructure, and now we call it DPI. The connotation is that it should be for last person on the ground, last layman on the ground, and how he's getting benefited from the system. That's the underlying connotation. When we talk about DPI, it is like something UPI, Aadhaar, Jan Dhan, that sort of thing, right? What kind of DPIs we have in Delhi Police? So I'll start with Intelligent Traffic Management System. I'm sure many of you may have come across e-challan system, and how do you make the payment to Delhi Police e-challan system and the online payment system. You can settle your, whatever violations you have committed, you want to make payment for that, you can do it online. And people are getting benefited in this way. Second thing which you come across very quickly, I'll just give a complete rundown. Second is PCC, Police Clearance Certificate. You get time on manner, in 15 days you get your certificate. And the back end, we use CCTNA system, Crime Criminal Tracking Network System, that is another DPI. Or integrate interoperable criminal justice system, which integrates 5 pillars of criminal justice system, that is police, prosecution, forensics, courts, and prosecution. So all 5 organs are integrated together in the interoperable system. So whenever we have to give PCC certificate, we search database, ICGS and SCRB dataset and CCTNA dataset, and based on that we give you a report. Likewise, we have a Safe City project where we have a massive data lake in which we have integrated 32 databases of Delhi Police, and also databases coming from some sister organizations, like for example, dataset coming from MORTH, Ministry of Road Transport, and the dataset something like Vahan, Sarthi, where we get online retrieval of driver's information and vehicles owners' details. So when we have such kind of system, coming to your question, how do we ensure that when we go for DPI in big way, the security of the data breach, how do we prevent data breach? That is one. And when people are committing transaction, they are entering into interface, how do we make sure that the citizens are not duped, no fraud happens, and their sensitive data, biometric data is not leaked in public domain. In Safe City project, we have 25,000 cameras all across Delhi, and we have some legacy cameras totaling to around 40,000. And in years to come, we'll have many more such projects. So the massive data set we are having in our data center has 22 petabyte and huge compute for facial recognition system. So when we have a biometric data, for example, face data, fingerprint data, how do we make sure that that is protected? So what we have done, that a couple of principles we have followed. The one is, security by design. What normally happens that we build a system and we think about security later on. So retrofitted security will not do any good, because it will leave lot many vulnerabilities in the system. So here it is security by design. We have for the best practices, best international practices. Second, zero trust architecture, and what we are planning that we will have graded security. Graded security means we start with zero trust, but depending on the behavior of the user, we will provide a lower or higher level of security. Sometimes over security becomes a hindrance on your work. So that AI-based system can make sure that we have a graded system in place. I think for public domain also, like we're talking about I4C, Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center. This is the massive umbrella DPI created by Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Here we have 7 verticals, And very important vertical, perhaps all of you are aware, that National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. So that portal is something, is a very important DPI, and anyone for that matter who is a victim of cybercrime anywhere in India could log in to this system, and the one is able to register cyber fraud. Then another DPI is CFCF RMS. So it's a basically citizen fraud reporting management system. So here, the moment you register and report a cybercrime, cyber fraud online, and if there is a transaction which you want to reverse because some cyber criminals have got your money, if that money is in the software system, in the banking system, that can be reversed. The idea is it should be done immediately without loss of golden minutes. I won't say golden hours, golden minutes. So as quickly you will log in, the system will also work in the same fashion, in same pace, and your money can be reversed. So these are some very important DPIs. In what we are looking for is that in future, once we have a huge data set, because India has an advantage in data set particularly, because when we talk about DPI, it has got many pillars, and one of the important pillar is data set. Second is huge compute. Third is the good models and architectures we should have available, and all the supporting DPIs. Like whenever any system you are creating and building, it will definitely use ID DPI, and ID identification DPI is Aadhaar. It will use some payment portal. So NEFT, RTGS, and UPI, these are the payment related DPIs. Likewise, you want to store documents, so you have to use your DigiLocker for that purpose. In Delhi Police, we have got very important DPI, which is licensing DPI. Delhi Police being a commissionerate, we have all the licensing powers which is traditionally used by civil administration. So here we provide all kinds of services, for example, arms licenses, cinema licenses, hotels, restaurants, explosives, firecrackers, whatever is there, citizen can go online and get the services real time. Payment is done online. Certificate is generated and deposited through DigiLocker, and now we have done a POC for giving access to certificate through blockchain based system, where a citizen can download a D app, and that D app will show the authenticated certificate. So now authentication is very easy. We have got a Shastra application by which a beat staff on ground can check any arms license, and it will have all details. So these are the DPIs broadly we have. Security is of course very important for us, and that's why we are extra cautious. We have created NOC/SOC, and we have done NOC/SOC is managed round the clock. We have an NDA with our vendor, our partners, so that the data is not leaked. We have a continuous audit. We do BAPT. We make sure that softwares are up to date. We are not exposed to internet. We have made air gap with our critical sensitive data. So, and biometric data particularly, so that, and we have got some kind of highest level of encryption. So that's the broadly we have done. I think any other point you want to cover, because there are a lot of things I want to talk. I can go on and on, but I'll stop here, and if any other question, you can let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we are really confident that we are data and we are on safe hands. So thank you so much. And you're given guidance on what government is already doing. So very encouraging. I would now shift to Anita, because one of the questions, one of the topics here is how is DPI really going to impact the economy? And I want to start with you because you have been leading the ID4D program. What I would like to understand is two things. One is, how is a simple thing like an identity a complete transformer when it comes to societal transformation? And I think from the World Bank, you would have sufficient data to say how it's really impacting GDP and economies. Second is, of course, you also specialize in social protection, which is also important when we are looking at DPIs being more inclusive. How can social protection really, again, transform this? So a couple of minutes on this, please, Anita. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please bear with my voice. Can you hear me? Yeah. Of cold from my last visit in Madrid last week, where it was very cold. So I think we have this McKinsey report which says the potential that an ID system has to impact can be from 3 to 13% of GDP. So just one foundational DPI ID system has this potential. How do we leverage it is in our hands. And second thing, while sitting in the World Bank, when we see presentations where you talk of impact stories of ID, I feel so proud because the examples that are shared are from India. So when you talk of the impact of ID on financial inclusion, the number that is quoted is, without the ID system, India would have taken 42 years to reach the same level of financial inclusion which we achieved in 6 years. Because of this ID which led to these Jan Dhan accounts and everybody is almost financially included, reduced the gender gap between the accounts held by male and female in India. So if you look at the Fintech report, 6 years back there was a huge gap between male and females in India, but now the gap has reduced significantly. And again, the potential of savings, again this credit goes to the example from India, where using Aadhaar for all the subsidies, direct cash transfer, and many other social welfare programs, we have saved trillions. And this data is documented and realized from India. And this example is quoted even in World Bank reports. So the potential is already in financial inclusion, curbing leakages, preventing fraud, helping in promoting inclusion. This is what social protection is all about, ensuring that you reach poor and vulnerable, and ID is one thing which enables. The biggest example we see when it came to COVID vaccine, did we see how it enabled reach each and every person in India because of this ID. Aadhaar enables everyone to be able to register and get their services because you have an identity to establish and register yourself from even the comfort of your home for any service. Many countries where I work, in my other hat, where I lead the social protection initiative for the German government, we see many countries are struggling to provide social protection services because they lack this foundational ID by which people can establish their identity, make their claim for getting a service. So ID is a great enabler for providing inclusion and even in social protection services which a person would like to avail of. It reduces the onboarding costs by 90%, whether it's bank account opening or you want to register for an online service from the comfort of your home versus having to make 4 trips with a pile full of documents and you always forget one document. So imagine the cost of making multiple trips, loss of job, the day you have to make a trip for getting any service in person. I think quite a few of us have forgotten the need for traveling hours for getting a service. So I think the potential immense. I can go on and on, but I just wanted to give you a couple of examples to show the impact.
Thank you so much, Anita. I think as we go towards the Viksit Bharat, no two thoughts about how DPI can really enable this transition for India. You have very clearly articulated how ID itself is so foundational and fundamental to do anything in the country. Let me move on to the next growth lever, and that's the private sector. So Rohit, I'm going to ask you to wear the private sector hat. I know you're also deeply involved in DPIs and implementation, but here I would request that you wear the private sector hat because this is the real growth engine for any economy. Now, India does have a lot of DPIs. We have seen a DPIs for ease of doing business. We have seen from protection, from documents, ID, etc. How do you see the private sector benefiting from a DPI like what's there in India? And also, what do you wish that it was there so that it makes it better for you?
Okay, thank you. So I think if we essentially look at DPI, it's basically 3 foundational, frameworks you can put it. One is foundational DPI in the sense of what government or a quasi-government structure is, like Aadhaar and like Anita ji mentioned. Then there comes the aggregators who build the solutions over those DPI solution that we call DPGs, digital public goods. And third is the distribution layer, which is essentially the Paytms and the Google Pay of the world, which they are trying to, as a directly dealing with the client and, giving those services. And if we have to talk about India's story in the sense, think of the COVID and what impact these payment aggregators had on the distribution of money, flow of money, and the ability to pay through UPI, irrespective whether it's a Paytm or anybody else. But think the amount of impact they had in such a situation, and India was hugely benefited. So I think there can be there's so many use cases, so many lessons, not only in terms of financial, but Ayushman Bharat in the sense of having a digital beneficiary ID from the point of view of whatever health services you need. Even government's own GEM platform, wherein the procurement of services of public sector is being done. So the number can go on, and so there is immense that we have done, and that's why the world, all the multilateral institutions also recognize what India has been able to achieve, and it is directly translated into reduction of poverty, social inclusion, and the society which is directly connected to the each and every step of the government, which is translating. And private sector, I think, is building those solutions, building those applications, building those products that they can consume directly using those DPGs and DPI, which are foundational. Now coming to the second point in terms of what can be the vision, I think the second is in terms of how technology is emerging, and private sector, I think, where the opportunity lies, which is itself a challenge also, because from the challenge only the opportunity comes, and which is in terms of what are the India's key problem areas now: pollution, sustainability issues, trade issues that we faces as country, whether it's through carbon tariff or other things, the issues in terms of workforce migration, the issue in terms of the law enforcement that various agency faces, and you can pick up many use cases from day-to-day traffic. So these are the things I think the private sector is going to build services using the work which we have done from 2014 Digital India initiative that started. Today we're going to augment into maybe a third phase, wherein we'll use AI, we'll use blockchain and all the emerging technologies which in isolation cannot work, but when we integrate them into a solution and do maybe a digital insurance to everybody that impacts the public services, and also build B2B solutions that can be used by different MSMEs, SMEs, which are essentially the growth engine of our economy. I think that's where it's going to go, and which is really going to be transformative. And I'm sure, like, if everybody from academia to government to private sector, everybody pitches in, there is a tremendous growth opportunity, and also the jobs which we need for our huge population and the demography.
Thank you so much, Rohit. So I think not only are you seeing the government's DPI supporting private sector through inclusion, skilling, education, but you're also seeing how private sector can actually build on what government is already doing. Fantastic. I think that's a very good lesson also for other countries. We have seen government, we have seen private sector. Now what we are going to do is the new kid in the block. So I don't know if you're aware that India has the third largest number of unicorns and also working on the emerging technology sector. So I'm going to point this question now to Smit, because he's heading the Drone Federation of India. Interestingly, I want to ask you two things. One is, from a startup sector, an emerging sector, how do you see DPIs? And now that you have seen DPIs successful in so many sectors, how do emerging sectors also look at DPIs, and can they really get the DPI way of thinking into working in the emerging sectors? So over to you, Smit.
Thank you. I think when we talk about DPIs being leveraged by startups, I think there are enough examples, but I'll just mention 2 or 3 of them very clearly. Some time back, when someone wanted to open a startup and do some kind of trade and commerce activity, for him to have the ability to receive payment would be in cash, then he would do his bank consolations, ledgers and various types of filings and taxation and all of that. And in came UPI, where you basically said that, if I just put a simple QR code in front of my shop or in front of my website at the payment side, I can suddenly start receiving digital payments in the digital format, which can then be automatically reconciled with my trade and commerce activity or invoicing systems. And life was easy for me to receive payments, reconcile them, and then make the data available for being tax ready. So while we keep promoting UPI for digital payments, it's also, if you look at the other side, from the trade side, it is a very good boon for the trade to receive these digital payments and then employ solutions to reconcile and link and then do all the other compliance related activities as well. Another activity was when certain areas where we wanted to submit KYC and all of that. That is where DigiLocker and Aadhaar and all of these ecosystems come in. I'll give one example in civil aviation. When you want to go to Delhi airport and you want to avoid the entire queue, you have a app called DigiYatra, and the first thing that you do to log into DigiYatra is either sign up via DigiLocker or Aadhaar. If that was not the case, I would have had to put a scanned copy of my driving license or Aadhaar card or something else, which would then be going to a private company or a government sort of module, which would then do some physical verification of that and then allow and enable verification of that ID, and then for me to use that app. Now when I press a button, it opens up one kind of a DPI or an app, opens up another DPI, DigiLocker or Aadhaar, takes my information from there, which is already automatically verified, and gives me the ability to seamlessly sort of integrate and build many more solutions like this. DigiYatra, by the way, was like a semi-startup idea which was started leveraging existing DPIs and existing solutions to basically build a layer on top of it and enable seamless digital civil aviation travel across the country. So these are some of the examples of how existing DPIs have enabled startups to collect money, do reconciliation, provide more solutions and do seamless, other sort of trade and ease of travel activities. Now coming to the new kid on the block, which is drones. Some time back when you would think of aviation and aerospace, the only way to think of that would be two types. In civil domain, you would see that there is a couple of 100 crore aircrafts that is owned by a 1,000 crore company, and the only way for it to take off and land is at fixed airports. And by the way, if you look at Indian airspace at any given point of time, which is if you look at in the entire country, there are about 2,000 to 3,000 aircrafts. That's the only number of aircrafts that are flying, whether they are landing in India or just passing by. So it's just 3,000 aircrafts that are being managed manually. In the defense side, you had essentially the fighter jets and many other transport aircrafts. Finally, the number was very handful, and it was controlled by a sovereign entity, which is the armed forces, the Air Force, or it was a very large, player, which is the airlines, which would few airlines would talk to government, and it was a very sort of less stakeholders who were managing this. In came drones, where you are suddenly saying that okay, there is a rural entrepreneur or a drone didi women which is going to fly a agriculture spraying drone in some corner of the country. There is another government organization that is going to do land records mapping in another part of the country. Then there is a central government organization that is DGCA, which is going to maintain the registry of all the drones and the training. And there is another organization called Airport Authority of India and Indian Air Force that is going to enable the permissions for flying in yellow zone or red zone. And by the way, apart from all of this, there is local police that is on the ground, which will be doing some protection of, let's say, Kumbh Mela or some VIP event, or maybe a Prime Minister's rally where some VIP is going to come and they want drones to not fly in that ecosystem. Or there is some important area, let's say some Indian Air Force location or some sensitive facility where police or CISF is guarding it. They have some jammers or some equipment and they are on the watch for drones flying. So there are a plethora of people, not centralized, working together in the drone ecosystem, and all of these people need exchange of information in real time. So how do you enable this? This is the DPI way of thinking that should be brought in the drone ecosystem as well. That how does a policeman who is guarding, let's say, the bungalow of an MP somewhere in some corner of the country, when he spots a drone, how can he open up an app, verify whether this is a compliant drone, legal drone or not, whether I need to take action on this or not, and how can this police app interact with the central registry of DGCA to in real time verify whether this drone is registered or not, whether he was authorized to fly in this location or not. And this is the way of thinking. And now when we expand this way of thinking, when I want to, let's say, go from some area of Hyderabad to the Hyderabad airport in a drone taxi that is going to be upcoming in the next 2 years of time. And when that drone taxi has to fly amongst the various drone operations and the manned aircraft operations, how do we enable this access of airspace digitally, giving permissions digitally, and then making all this information available to law enforcement, civil aviation, and many other stakeholders in the country? In the parlance of road transport, you build a road and the car can physically only drive in that road. But when you talk about airspace, because there are no fixed roads and fixed infrastructure, it is just a digital, sort of highway in the air. The drone and the drone taxi and the airplane has the physical ability to go in each other's airspace. So it's very important to digitize all these flight plans, bring that all in a central system, and then make this information available to last person in the society or the first person in the law enforcement, to make sure that, let's say if Siva was flying a drone, outside his house, can a policeman just, look up an app without disturbing him, find out that whether Siva is a registered person or not, whether he has been authorized to fly this or not, and seamlessly do that such that he is not harassed. So this is the kind of thinking that needs to come in, so that drones, which has now become an opportunity, can be thought of from a DPI approach. All the right stakeholders can be brought in together, and this ease of doing business can be furthered. And by the way, in the drone space, I keep saying there are 20 plus countries in the near global south which are struggling very hard to implement drone regulations. A central platform or a DPI kind of approach will ensure that we can package all of this in a DPI and give it to all of these countries, to not just give this DPI infrastructure to them, but through the DPI infrastructure also help them regulate their entire drone economies and drone ecosystems in those countries. So that's the kind of approach that DPI thinking in the drone ecosystem and civil aviation ecosystem will help India take infrastructure and policy thinking to the global south and many other countries that have been struggling to open up their ecosystems, especially in the drone and the unmanned space.
Thank you so much, Smit. So it's not only social inclusion, but also what you said is almost like science fiction.
Thank you to all our panelists. Mr. Murty, may I request you to kindly present the mementos to the panelists.